What if the FBI itself was being reshaped from the inside, its veteran agents pushed out, its mission quietly rewritten, and its leadership caught dodging questions under oath? That's exactly what played out in one of the most tense Senate hearings in recent memory, where Senator Cory Booker confronted FBI Director Kash Patel in a moment that peeled back the curtain on how political loyalty can corrode the very foundations of justice. Within minutes, this wasn't just a hearing, it became an exposé of how power, secrecy, and ambition can twist an institution built to protect us all. Booker started with a question that should have had a simple answer. Did you testify before the grand jury that the documents were declassified?
Schools and their jobs and hospitals. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely
Have there been
false.
any FBI agents who investigate
no.
foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seized 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been
FBI
arrested.
agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Corrections Squad reassigned. People who defend us, defend children reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the Bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this, I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes,
at this
sir.
point?
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If
You're
you
gonna
want
lecture
to talk
me
about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time
apart.
to
There
address
should be a
your
unifying.
falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this
to
country.
not
Senator,
take
it is
my
responsibility
time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making a
time is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of New
we've
Jersey
come
tell me
since
what my
you
time
tell-
is.
Senator-
You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over?
You may be the charge of the
I'm not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth, talking over each other doesn't work. And I said if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr.
So
Chairman, one point of
go
order.
ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
He has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last year. Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrested them? Why have we 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year? 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 7,000 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we're taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern border, the northern border.
Before Senator Cruz, I kind of feel like a broken record today. All this interest in FBI termination, yet my colleagues showed no intent or interest in when my whistleblowers suffered retaliation over the past years, particularly the past 4 years. Indeed, one whistleblower has alleged that Brian Driscoll's insubordination, whether an agent is on a hot button case or not, they ought to be held accountable for misconduct and weaponization. Senator Cruz.
A yes or a no would have done it, but Patel's answer wasn't an answer at all. He danced around the question, deflecting with vague references to transcripts that according to him were already released, but they weren't. In fact, a federal court had denied that release just months earlier. Booker pressed harder, pointing out that under federal law, Patel was free to discuss his own testimony. Yet Patel refused again, saying only that the transcript was the best evidence. You could almost feel the tension spike in the room. This wasn't confusion, it was evasion, and Booker knew it. But Booker wasn't just after one evasive answer, he was building a case. What came next revealed how much deeper this went. He shifted the focus from legal semantics to loyalty, asking Patel whether he had followed through on his promise to protect FBI agents from political retaliation. That's when everything cracked open. Booker cited a lawsuit filed by 3 longtime FBI officials who claimed Patel had led a campaign to purge agents who failed to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. These weren't bureaucrats. These were decorated public servants, people who had spent their lives serving their country. And one of them, Special Agent Brian Driscoll, stood out. Driscoll's record was almost unmatched. 2 decades of service, Medal of Valor, Shield of Bravery. He'd led the Newark field office, and under his watch violent crime dropped and dozens of child exploitation cases were cracked wide open. But in October of 2025, Driscoll received a letter of termination signed by Patel himself. The justification, Article 2 of the Constitution. Only one problem, that's the authority of a president, not an FBI director. Booker called it what it was, an illegal dismissal carried out in the name of political control, and in that moment the hearing stopped being about a single firing. It became a story about an institution being bent to serve power instead of principle. Patel's response didn't help. He tried to hide behind the phrase that matter is under litigation, refusing to elaborate. But Booker pressed again, asking whether Patel had discussed these firings with Stephen Miller, a senior political operative with a long history of shaping policy from behind the curtain. Patel hesitated, then admitted that he spoke to Miller frequently. When asked how often, he doubled down, frequently on our Homeland Security task forces. But Booker wasn't talking about national security, he was asking about influence. He wanted to know whether these firings and reassignments were being coordinated by political advisors outside the Bureau. And when Patel dodged again, Booker connected the dots for him. You frequently discuss your responsibilities with Stephen Miller, Booker said, and with Attorney General Pam Bondi as well, correct? Absolutely, Patel replied. Understood, Booker said. That tells us everything we need to know. It was a chilling exchange. In just a few sentences, Booker exposed how the Bureau's top leadership had blurred the line between justice and politics. It wasn't just about one man being loyal to another, it was about an entire institution losing its independence. When the Attorney General and political strategists start influencing FBI staffing decisions, the very idea of impartial justice begins to crumble. Then came the statistic that left the room in stunned silence. Booker revealed internal data showing that roughly 20% of all FBI agents had been diverted from their primary duties, counterterrorism, cybercrime and crimes against children, to assist in immigration enforcement operations. 20%. That means 1 in every 5 agents was pulled away from investigating violent offenders or protecting national security to instead carry out politically driven enforcement priorities. And the fallout wasn't theoretical, it was measurable. Task forces tracking foreign espionage were thinned out. Units that handled online child exploitation cases saw major slowdowns. Even counterintelligence teams responsible for monitoring threats from hostile nations had lost manpower. Booker made it clear, this wasn't policy reform, it was institutional sabotage. By reassigning specialists to politically charged operations, Patel wasn't just changing the FBI's priorities, he was weakening the country's defenses. It was a quiet dismantling of expertise, trading decades of experience for short-term political favor. You've made America less safe, Booker said bluntly. Not because you lack resources, but because you've redirected them. Patel pushed back, insisting that the FBI was safer than ever, but the numbers didn't lie. Child exploitation investigations had dropped, counter-espionage warnings had increased, and thousands of career agents were left demoralized, stripped of authority, or pushed out altogether. But what was once the world's most respected investigative body was becoming something else, a political machine wrapped in the language of law enforcement. Booker's frustration was visible. Every question he asked was grounded in oversight and accountability, yet every answer Patel gave sounded like a carefully crafted deflection. It wasn't just what Patel said, it was what he refused to say. His reluctance to discuss the grand jury, the firings, or even the scope of his communications with political advisors wasn't about legality, it was about control. And the longer the hearing went on, the clearer that became. The director of the FBI wasn't answering to Congress, he was answering to a different kind of power. Booker then shifted to the human cost. He painted a picture of what those lost agents meant in real terms: cases that went cold, investigations left half-finished, lives affected. When you remove thousands of experienced agents, he said, you're not just changing numbers on a chart, you're erasing decades of institutional knowledge. Each reassignment meant one less expert tracking cartel networks, one less analyst monitoring extremist chatter, one less agent fighting cyber threats. And those gaps, Booker warned, don't close overnight. It could take a decade to rebuild what was dismantled in a few years. What's worse, he said, was the message it sent inside the Bureau. The culture of fear, where questioning leadership could mean losing your job, had replaced the old standard of integrity and service. Agents weren't just being silenced, they were being watched. And that kind of internal pressure doesn't just demoralize a workforce, it erodes the very trust the public has in law enforcement. We can't afford a bureau that fears its own leadership, Booker said. We need one that fears failing the Constitution. The more Patel tried to pivot, the more apparent it became that this was never about administrative adjustments. It was about loyalty tests, information control, and the quiet centralization of power. Booker called it the politicization of national security, and he wasn't exaggerating. Every institution, from intelligence to law enforcement, depends on one fragile principle: independence. The moment that's compromised, the system starts to rot from within. By the time the hearing reached its final moments, the tension had shifted from confrontation to clarity. Booker's questioning had stripped away the layers of jargon and legal evasions. What remained was a simple, unsettling truth: when leaders treat agencies like personal instruments of loyalty, they don't just weaken democracy, they endanger it. The FBI was designed to be an independent protector of the law, not a weapon in a political arsenal. And Patel's evasions, combined with the documented firings and reassignments, painted a picture of an agency caught in the crossfire of ambition and allegiance. Booker ended his remarks not with outrage, but with warning. He reminded the chamber that the consequences of leadership failure aren't measured in sound bites, they're measured in national vulnerability. Every agent lost, every investigation delayed, every evasive answer in a hearing adds up to a larger truth: that integrity, once broken, is hard to restore. And if institutions like the FBI lose that trust, rebuilding it could take generations. That's why this hearing matters. It's not about politics or party lines, it's about the health of the system that protects all of us. When accountability is replaced by evasion, when transparency gives way to secrecy, and when expertise is sacrificed for loyalty, the nation's security isn't strengthened, it's compromised. This wasn't just a tense exchange in Congress, it was a glimpse into the slow unraveling of institutional integrity, happening right before the public's eyes. And that's why Booker's final words echoed long after the gavel fell: the rule of law isn't a slogan, it's a safeguard. Lose it, and you lose the country. So the next time you hear about another hearing or another official dodging questions, remember this one, because this wasn't about politics, it was about principle. It was about what happens when good people inside powerful institutions are forced to choose between their duty and their survival. And as this story unfolds, one thing is certain: the truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes in Washington than most people realize, and we're here to bring it all to light, fact by fact, hearing by hearing. Stay tuned, because what's coming next might just change everything you thought you knew about justice in America.